Ticats This Week.
Hey, Ticats fans, welcome to Ticats This Week. Myself, RJ Broadhead, and Luke Pastor. Big Labor Day Classic coming up. It's week 5 in the CFL, and best case scenario for the Tiger Cats is there's a 3-way tie for first place. So we'll see come Monday, but Monday we've got you covered on Ticats Audio Network, 11 a.m. Bob O'Neill has a free game show, tons of ex-players, analysts, great guests, and then the pre-game with Louis B. and Andy Fantu's fantastic stuff from those two constantly. If you haven't listened to the pre or post game, you have to do it because it is excellent, all the information. And then Luke and I have the game at 1 o'clock kickoff, and I can't wait for this game, Luke. You've been a Tiger Cat for a long time. This is your first year not playing with the team, but being part of the broadcast is still kind of part of the team. 10-0 in 2019. What's the attitude of the team when you had a home game? 10-0 at home, of course. Having those home games and feeling invincible. What was that like?
Yeah, you're exactly right. There was, and it builds as the season goes along, but there was a expectation of winning. There really was, and it's a cultural thing from the top down. And it's very different from. Well, it's very different from a cockiness or a sense that you know you're going to win just because that's the way it is. It's just we were under the impression that that's just what we did in home games, and it really started to come natural, almost to the effect was it almost was you take the lead in the game and your excitement was sort of limited. It just was the game was going just the way that we all knew it was going to go, the way that we had planned for it to go. And late in the season, it really was not a burden. It just doesn't feel like, oh my goodness, now we have to win at home. It was just, we're probably going to win. It's just that kind of thing. And it's a different year this year, right? I mean, it's a different team, different season, and Ticats just got their first win last week in Montreal, but there's just something so great about that stadium, and it's interesting this year that the Labor Day Classic happens to fall on as the first home game, which has surely never happened before, with such a late start this year with COVID. But that double whammy of a first home game in Labor Day is interesting too.
Well, I know you on your Coach O show with Luke Pastor, again on Ticats Audio Network, fantastic stuff with Coach. You talked about yourself and almost having to calm yourself down to play your best. So you got a home opener, as you mentioned. You got the Labor Day Classic, two of the biggest games in Hamilton in any CFL season fall on the same day. So was there one that you got a little more jazzed for than the other?
Yeah, it's such a unique thing this year for that. And like I said in the Coach O show, and this is certainly different for every player. People energize themselves and excite themselves about different things. And I certainly had to sort of downplay the sort of energy about the Labor Day Classic. That wasn't really my style to play, jazzed up for a special game. And I actually, similar to the Grey Cup, I really was always at my best, with that mindset of it's just another football game. I've been doing this since I was in 3rd grade. I just need to go out and do my job, and sort of downplay that moment of a big game. For the first game for the home opener, that is really always an exciting thing. And it was sort of I don't want to say a hump to get over in the season, but, at this point, those early days of training camp, of preseason, which we didn't have this year in the CFL, of course, those first away games, you're really in stride in the season at this point. Your family's there. You're comfortable. You wake up in your own bed. You go to your locker room, to your locker where all your stuff is. It's got a really great feeling to it. And I always loved the home opener and playing off of the energy of that. When it comes to the Labor Day, when it comes to a playoff game, the Grey Cup, I certainly was always of the mindset to really be reminding myself of just one play at a time, do your job. And this is no different than all the other times you put on a uniform and played a football game.
Take us inside the locker room on a game like this, Luke. You know a lot of the players who are still there. Is there somebody who gets vocal or pumps guys up for a Labor Day Classic?
I think there's I think there's an aspect of a football team, and again, not every football team. It's amazing, this sport. You've got 50-some guys, personalities, and positions and responsibilities, and they all mesh in a different way. It's an incredible thing to be a part of a football team. But I think there's an aspect of having a certain level of respect for everybody's own prep, right? If you kind of get a sense for a player who really just wants to be quiet before a game, and then there are guys who want to joke, who want to just talk, who want to listen to the music, and I think that there's a bit of sort of an unspoken practice of just letting guys do things their own way before a game. But when it comes down to it, it's a team. It's about being a team, and it's about being on the same page. And I think that's the stuff that you see where, people with the team puts their hands up together, and that's when everybody comes together and you break down together and the coach addresses the team together. Short of that, people are free to, you're free to handle your business your own way before a game. There are some guys who want to show up in the stadium 6 hours before kickoff. And for me, as a young player, that's how I was. I wanted to, I was kind of get there studying still and looking at the call sheet for the game and warming up. People want to take hot tubs, cold tubs, whatever, get stretched and things like that. Later on in my career, I wanted to walk into the stadium, put my cleats on, and go out onto the field, because I got to a point where I was battling overthinking. I needed to think less on game day. And in what was probably my best year, 2018, my best year of production, my mind was so free on game days. I wasn't thinking about anything other than just having fun, and I wanted to just show up, get my uniform on, and let's just go play. But player, you got to. There's no sense in coaching a player on this. It's a natural thing. You either really want to study, or you really want to rest, or you want to get to the locker room and nap. There was, sometimes that's the best thing to do. For Labor Day, though, one interesting thing that'll happen and has happened throughout the week. You got to think there's rookies, there's rookie Americans who have no idea about a Labor Day Classic, don't know anything about what Ivor Wynn was, or much less even the past 8 seasons at Tim Hortons Field. And so throughout the week, there is something of an education that happens for the team, from the coaches, from other players who have played in Labor Day games, and you sort of indoctrinate new guys into what it means to that the Ticats are playing the Argos, and that this has happened for more than 100 years, and how, all the different sort of Canadian CFL traditions that are such a cool part of what Monday is going to be about. And that's a fun part of it too, right? This is a life experience for all these players, and to know the full magnitude of what the Labor Day Classic is just makes the whole thing even more enjoyable for fans and players.
Well, that brings up an interesting idea with the Toronto Argonauts. They were supposed to play last week. They didn't, because the Edmonton Elks had a COVID outbreak. So they wind up with an unexpected bye week, 15 days off. To put that into perspective, Hamilton's bye week, they had 13 days off. So it's pretty similar. So do you see this as a good thing for the Argos, a bad thing, or really indifferent?
I talked about this with Andy Fantuz in the Task and Tooze show, and in the previous week when we had discovered, or when it had come about, that the Argos had this sort of extra bye week. And interestingly, it's not a true bye week, right? Because they would have the freedom to be in the facilities. They're not going to be it's not a scheduled downtime, right? This is my prediction, and this is a prediction that can't be proven false or right. So I'm going to say that I'm right about it.
Safe one.
So here's what I think, though. I think that the Ticats have a much more advantageous prep than do the Argos, because they're coming off they have a long week as well. I mean, this is wonderful. after the Montreal game, which was a Friday, right? So they have an extended week, and it's a win that they're coming off of, and a divisional win, and a road game. So a home game coming back after a win on the road in your division, that's fantastic. And you have extra time. They had a bye week prior to the Montreal, so the Ticats had a extended time of rest prior to Montreal, and then another long week. The CFL season is so interesting like that. You get all these strange time frames between games, and right now they're going to play a Monday and a Friday. I mean, that's a real unique thing to football apart from the CFL. It's very interesting. And I think that the Ticats are really, really well positioned to have a great game and to physically feel good and to have an extended week after a victory. That's fantastic. Sometimes you run into, all of a sudden you were prepping for a game and you find out that you're not going to play. And I'm speaking to the Argos situation now. It can kind of throw off your groove, and they were playing really well. I'm sure they were feeling great, getting ready to prepare for Edmonton. I don't know.
Coming off that win against Winnipeg.
Exactly. Exactly, and that was an impressive win too. It really was. And who knows? I think this is a strange hiccup to the season for the Argos, whereas the Ticats are well positioned after a victory.
So that victory that Hamilton had against Montreal, all three aspects of the team were very good. You could nitpick a couple of things, too many sacks, but overall the Tiger Cats were excellent. Did we see the real 2021 Tiger Cats in that game?
Oh yeah, I think so. And you got to remember there was no preseason this year, and things are different, and things are strange, and team meetings are on Zoom. So I wonder if the story of this year's Hamilton Tiger Cats is that it just took those first 2 weeks prior to the bye week to just find their own identity. Their team sort of, call it mojo, call it whatever. They're in the groove now, and it was a great display of complementary football. All three sides of the ball played well and helped each other succeed and string the game together. Like you said, I think penalties and there was a lot. Dane Evans had a lot of pressure. There were sacks. There's things that have to be changed, but on three phases of the ball, it was a good-looking team performance.
Ryan Dinwiddie, the head coach of the Argonauts, has done a great job so far. Has the Argonauts at 2-1 in their first 3 games, but he said he still thinks Hamilton is the best team in the East. So, and that might be true the way they played against Montreal, and they'll have to prove that. But is he kind of playing the underdog role and putting some expectations and maybe a little extra pressure on the Tiger Cats with a comment like that?
Yeah, I don't know. It might be sort of positioning, or just or just being humble, or whatever you want to call it. But I think every confident head coach there's something inside of them that tells them that they're the best team in the running. And there's this early in the season, you can point to 1,000 things to support any team being the best. But I certainly take it to that film from Montreal is a different team than what was Sask in Winnipeg. Speaking of the Ticats' first 3 games, and so I really would see that an opponent prepping for the Ticats right now sees a team on an upward trajectory in a big way, and a team that's really coming into their own. And so I'm not going to say that is a total bluff. I think the Ticats are going to be really respected, and if they continue to put a quality film out there, then certainly they're going to be the top teams in the league.
Labor Day Classic. We talked about what a huge game it is since 2014 at Tim Hortons Field. The Tiger Cats have beaten the Argos every single time, and they'd love to continue that in 2021. If they do, then things really tighten up in the East Division. Thered be a 3-way tie for first place. So we'll see how it all plays out. Made it a ton of these Labor Day Classic games. Some of your memories.
Yeah. So specifically in 2014, the first Labor Day Classic in Tim Hortons Field, I can see Bakari Grant's hands in the air when he scored the first touchdown at the new stadium and the new uniforms I remember a good catch that I had in that game, a little wide receiver screen right on the Hamilton sidelines. I remember those bright afternoon games, and we also had those 4 p.m. games that end into the evening. And I always loved a 4 p.m. football game. That is the perfect time in my mind as a player when you're preparing. When you have a 7 p.m. start, there's just so much day to get through before you then play football. And honestly, that emotionally, just getting ready for a game, you get tired throughout the day just waiting for that. And then that 1 p.m. games spring up on you, right? So those 4 p.m. Labor Day Classics, that there was a few of them in there, and I always loved that. And then I had one great touchdown in the 2018 Labor Day Classic that I remember. And of course, it was, we talked about the 10-0 at home last year. There's a similar feeling for me at Labor Day. It was something about we really expected to win the Labor Day Classic, and even in the years where we were struggling in the early parts of the season, 2014 was one of those examples. 2015, where and the Labor Day ended up being sort of a turning point in some ways, but just incredible fan presence. It was always just amazing at Labor Day Classic. There was a little bit of additional media coverage. It made for a really, really special football environment.
Well, in 2018, that big catch on Ticats.ca, Louis Boo does such a great job to put together the top 5 plays at Tim Hortons Field on the Labor Day Classic.
Yeah, I saw Louis gave me one of the catches in there.
Number 4. Can you believe there's 3 better than you?
Oh, Louis, come on, man. Yeah, that's cool.
Check it out at Ticats.ca. Just a little stroll down memory lane. Of course, for all you Ticats fans, all the great plays. We're hoping to see many great plays on Monday when Tiger Cats play the Argos in the Labor Day Classic. Can't wait to call the game with you on Monday.
Looking forward to it, RJ. It's going to be a great one, and hoping for nice weather, and we know that it's going to be just awesome to have fans back in Tim Hortons Field. Yeah,
it's going to be a crazy environment. Labor Day Classic, the Argos visiting the Tiger Cats, Tim Hortons Field. Hope to see a lot of you there. Hope you're loud. Hope the stadium's rocking and pulling. And maybe the Tiger Cats can get into a tie for first place. The kickoff's at 1 o'clock. Luke and I will have the call of the game at 11 a.m. Bob O'Neill has a great pregame show. And then at noon, it's Louis B. and Andy Benson setting up the game. So lots of content for you on Ticats Audio Network, and we can get you all set up for the Labor Day Classic. Can't wait to talk to you then.